Okay, everyone, so we are broadcasting and recording. So in Kristen's absence, Danielle, do you usually chair?
I can. That's
fine. Carol can.
Carol can, whoever would like to.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Our first thing we're going to do, start the meeting at 6 p.m. August 25th, 2020. We need the approval of the agenda. Anybody want to?
I'll motion.
I'll do it.
All right. And any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the nature thereof?
Nope.
Okay. And then approval of our previous minutes, which was back in February 19th, 2020. So we had a financial report, we did rental updates. We talked about snow removal, the railing, some small halls, fundraising ideas, which we didn't end up being able to do. Somebody just want to
I'll
pass
motion.
Second.
I don't think there's anything crazy that came out that wasn't right.
No. Okay, so next one thing on the list was the financial report, and I gotta find the last bank statement I just received. So let's come back to that. And then rental updates, which I think is our big thing we want to talk about. At this point, we have absolutely no rentals lined up. So let's talk about all the stuff about getting reopened. Is this the time that we should talk about that, or in new? Anybody?
New business?
Would that be a new business, maybe?
I think.
I would think so.
Okay. All right. So then, as far as rental updates, there's nothing new to update.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! That's quick. So business arriving from the previous meeting, which was snow removal. We kind of didn't end up having to deal with that too much. The railing, we had deferred that. So I'm assuming we'll probably defer that again. All right, everybody?
Are we still deferring that until we figure out what we're gonna need as far as accessibility goes?
Right, yeah.
Is that what we're waiting for?
We got
Well,
that.
I think,
the report yet.
yeah. So we'll defer that one again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so we had the small halls, which we all know has been postponed this year. So, yeah, we'll have to see how it's good for 2021. And then we had come up with some fundraising ideas, and unfortunately had to cancel all of those. So, all right. So I guess now we're into new business. So does Amanda want to kind of give us a talk about it first, and we can go from there?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Carol, and hello, everyone in Brentwood. So the purpose of having myself on the agenda was to share and talk about the reopening guidelines that the township was had approved approximately 3 weeks ago. I believe it was August 10th. So the toolkit is basically it's two parts. We are providing all of the halls with a guiding document that essentially what it's done is it's compiled all of the provincial and local health regulations into one easy to read document that breaks it down by rentals, rec facilities, events with food and beverage, For halls that, such as Avening and Duntroon, we had to include the bowling alley requirements. All of that information, as well as providing things like the posters and the contact tracing forms that are required by the health unit. So that's the information. The second part to the toolkit is the township is prepared at no cost to the halls to provide a really robust starter kit to get your halls open. So those items would include hand sanitizer, automatic hand sanitizer pumps, handheld pumps that could go onto the bar or your serving area. It would include the social distancing floor circle stickers that you've probably seen at businesses across the township. It will also include face masks, because face masks and face coverings are a requirement by the health unit to be worn indoors. And basically it is any other information that the township can support you with. We are here as a resource.
Right.
I don't know, was the toolkit sent to everybody in advance of this meeting?
Yep.
Yeah.
It is a long document. When you open it up, it looks like it's close to 40 pages long. But that's
47. No, I printed it.
47 pages, so don't print it. We will be
No.
providing the printed copies. The reason why it is so long is because we've included the required posters and the guidelines that have to be set out. So again, at no cost to the halls, we don't want you to have to print those requirements out of pocket. The other reason why I'm saying don't print it is the province has once again changed the guidelines. So
Right.
we will only provide you with a printed copy when you are absolutely ready to open. And
Oh, okay.
what we need from the hall boards is a resolution. You have a couple options. You have to discuss as a hall board whether you wish to remain closed for an indefinite time period, that you are willing to reopen, or you can have a combination that you are willing to open on a case-by-case basis. A really good example of that right now is the Duntroon Hall has agreed to open only for one rental that is happening per week for the month of August and September. They are closed to any other private rentals. So one of the advantages to the toolkit is that it's very fluid. It can be tailored and personalized to meet the needs of your hall. And as your hall board makes decisions and the information changes, or we're able to evolve into hosting more events or more private rentals, then this toolkit hopefully will be able to evolve as the information changes and the requirements change. So that's kind of my presentation in a nutshell. I would say that some of the concerns, because this is now my third or fourth hall that I have been talking to, some of the other concerns are definitely around the cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting, and especially in high touch areas, so washrooms and the kitchens. So in the document near the back of the written section, there is a discussion about, sorry, I'm just going to bring it up exactly. It's called Facility Cleaning Guidelines. And again, these are just guidelines. They're not requirements, but it basically just speaks to making sure that the hall puts in a level of responsibility to the private renter when it comes to checking and cleaning washrooms frequently during the course of an event. We recommend that you have rentals that are shorter in duration, perhaps are smaller size. You are required to have, again, it's highly recommended it's not law, but it's highly recommended that you use disinfectants that have a DIN number. So Lysol, for example, you can search on their website the products that you want to use, and a number, there's like a disinfecting number that comes up. We're also encouraging you, and if your hall board has not already started to have these conversations, to have a reliable contractor to do janitorial services. It shifts the responsibility of cleaning and maintaining these high touch points onto a janitorial contractor. And that contractor would have to be able to provide a log or a record of work at the facility, as well as they would have their own insurance and their own WSIB clearance. The other big discussion point that has come out in some of the other halls is related to capacity. So right now the province is allowing indoor rentals to have a maximum capacity of 50 people per room. Providing physical distancing is still being achieved. So what that might actually mean for your hall is that the percentage of people allowed might be quite a bit less. We all know Brentwood Hall is tiny to begin with. It barely holds 50 in the best of days. But you need to make sure that there is enough distance between tables if you're going to be doing food service. Right now,
would that mean as a hall board?
Pardon?
When you say that, you mean as a hall, like if we were doing a fundraising food event?
Yes.
Or is that even for, like if a renter is going to have Thanksgiving dinner, do we go in and make sure the tables are perfectly spaced?
Yes.
Oh,
so
okay.
One of the recommendations in here is that your hall establish basically a similar floor plan for events. So that when there's an indoor gathering, you don't exceed the physical distancing requirements.
All right.
So that would be under, there is a section in here. I'm just trying to find the physical distancing section.
So I'll just, when you're looking for that, I guess our question is, you were saying about the washrooms and touch points. So if someone has it rented, is it expected that there is a member of the board there for the entire event just to clean the washrooms?
No, there is
not. For 8 hours?
No,
okay.
Not at all. What's most important with the public washrooms is there is a guiding document on it, and that you just ensure that the touch points are cleaned frequently, and you can put that responsibility onto the primary renter. So by, for example, using a Lysol aerosol can spray, and you have that on the back of the toilet so that after each single use, the person that's in the washroom can just spray the, like the little hand flusher, for lack of a better word, sorry. But they could just spray that down, or that they could just spray the doorknob on their way, just before they leave.
Okay, so it's not like we have to be standing there and every 30 minutes we have to wash their bathroom down.
Absolutely not. So in fact, the minimum requirement is only to clean washrooms 2 times per day when they are being used by the public.
Okay.
Okay.
The other thing that is important with public washrooms, or washrooms that are open to the public, I should refer to, is that you have signage about proper hand washing and proper hand hygiene. And again, those posters are included in the toolkit. You might also want to consider I don't know about the men's washroom. Are there 2 stalls in your men's washroom, or is it just single use?
It's just single use.
Then in your case, that should be fine. One of the concerns that another hall had was that there was a a toilet and a urinal, but side by side, which would not allow physical distancing to happen. But because you have single use, you'd be able to ensure physical distancing is happening in the washrooms because it's one person at a
Well,
time.
yeah. Sorry, that being said, we do have a urinal and a toilet, but there's no divider. So to
Right,
me, in my
that's
mind,
fine.
that's a single use. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? About the tracing.
Contact tracing?
Yes. How do we, I see you've got some sheets there that we could leave. Is the same thing where you need to put in our new agreement that they must do this, and like, do we police that they've done it? Do we, like, do they just take the list home with them? Do they leave it there at the hall? Like, what is the suggested procedure for that?
So it's a bit of a gray area. The health unit is suggesting that the hall implement for your own events, you implement a procedure for your own events, right? And also perhaps to include a master log sheet so that if any of you as volunteers or if you have a contractor going into the hall, that you would sign in date, time, telephone number. With the rental agreements, it's the responsibility of the primary renter to keep a record of the guest's name and phone number. The challenge will be is that if anyone gets sick, you have to go back to that primary renter and they need to be able to produce a copy of the guest list, and they only need to hold that for 30 days.
Okay, must
so
keep a log.
No, you do not need to ask the primary renter to give you the list, but at any point in that 30-day window from the time the event happened, they would have to be able to produce it.
Okay. So that's up to 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And this is, again, when contact tracing first started 2 months ago and it was included in this toolkit, it was still a really new, like people were unsure about leaving their name and phone number and who was responsible. But I would assume by this point, many of you have even personally had to do that at a restaurant or going to church even or something like that. So it's becoming more commonplace. The key to this is that it's the responsibility of the renter. So you'll need to update your rental agreement to include that.
So it doesn't fall on us that if they didn't make everyone wear a mask while they were there, or follow the sort of floor plan, because sure people will go in and go, I don't like how it looks, and we'll change tables around. So that is all on the renter. We would need to. Does the township have an agreement already that we could be using for that, or do we just develop our own?
Yeah, so the answer is no. We have not created our own policy. It's up to each hall to incorporate these recommendations into your existing rental contracts.
Right.
But I'm happy to review your wording in your language just for consistency, if you would like.
Is there any halls that already have one done that like we could piggyback on, or is like we're still responsible for making our own?
The only one that I can think of would be the Duntroon Hall, because they're the only ones that have been open for one renter.
Right.
So
yeah,
it would be through Gord Kemp. I'm not sure how they handled it with that one particular renter.
Okay.
But I know the other halls are at various stages, so I haven't had a chance to review anybody else's documents, but the offer is out there for all the halls to be, for me to review them.
What else did I have questions? Okay, so back to the cleaning, and you're talking about cleaning companies, because I don't know if everybody's aware, but we right now don't have a and because of the standards that are in place with the WSIB and insurance, it's very difficult for someone to do that privately. So to hire somebody, a company to come in, we're used to, you know, $25 per rental, and our rentals, you might get one a month, you might get one every 6 months. How are we going to hire a company that is going to be affordable? Like, is there one that maybe has approached the township to sort of, you know, hey, maybe we could all share my services? Or
Yeah, so Carol, you bring up a really big challenge that the other halls are experiencing right now. And my only suggestion that I can provide is that you or the chair of the board or a member of your board reach out to the other hall boards and see if that's something that you can start having a conversation around. Again, it's not,
right.
it's a bit of a gray area because it's not the township's responsibility to hire your contractors. So I would just really
No.
encourage you to maybe reach out to Station on the Green, Sunnydale Corners, Evening Hall, you know, being halls that are close to Brentwood that you might be able to share a similar service. So that'd be
Right.
my suggestion to you. Mm-hmm.
So let's say we can't find a cleaner and we have a rental and then the cleaning falls on the board, so someone has to go in and clean. Does that mean that the board is then liable? Because you said get a cleaner where it's going to be liable on them. So if we have to go in and clean it ourselves because for some reason we can't find the cleaner, which is possible, then obviously does that fall on the fault of the board, or will that be on the individual member who went and cleaned the hall?
So a great question. I actually think that perhaps we should write that one down and get Pamela, our clerk, to provide a legal comment. I don't know that scenario is very specific, Kristen. My understanding, though, would be that it would be no different than what you're doing right now. We're exposing ourselves to any level of risk, whether there was COVID or not. What is really important for your hall to work towards is to have a set of guidelines for what does cleaning the facility look like. You'd have to present that to a private janitor company anyways on what your expectations are. So if you as a hall board agree to a level of service or an expectation, then anyone who's cleaning the facility should follow those guidelines. But that specific question about who would ultimately be held liable, perhaps Sarah can make note of that, and we should follow up with our clerk's department for a comment.
That'd be great. Just because I do have a fear that we won't be able to find a cleaner, and then if we have a rental, it's like, well, now we have to clean it, and I don't personally want to be sued for any reason because that would be ridiculous. But if I have to go clean it, I want to make sure that, like, okay, like, if something does come up, then.
And Kristen, there's more protection too. That we have the proper guidelines. There's more protection too. Yes, there's the 3 days you leave it alone, that kind of stuff, because we normally don't have rentals, very odd time, and we'd have to monitor that and control that. Like if we had one and then 24 hours later had another one, if I leave a 3-day window, if that's still correct. I have not followed up with the public health at how long it takes this virus to die on a surface. But so what about our protection too?
Right. So just with respect to the life cycle of the virus, there is a paragraph in here under the disinfecting. The health unit will not comment on if there's a break period or a rest period that is long enough to kill the virus. What they're only suggesting is that there's enough time for staff, or in this case, a volunteer, to effectively clean and sanitize. So luckily for you guys at Brentwood, you're not having a lot of back-to-back meetings or events. Some of the other halls literally have a rental at 9 a.m. and a rental at 1 p.m. You're fortunate in the sense that you would be able to have time to have a contractor or volunteer go in between rentals to do that cleaning. But the health units will not comment on whether there's like a rest period or a time that the virus just dies on hard surfaces. The only guidance that they are giving us is to follow the Public Health Ontario and the Simcoe-Muskoka Health Unit guidelines. And I would just say that as long as we do our due diligence and you follow those recommendations, and that it's a volunteer or a contractor, that is the level that we are able to fulfill. But the specific liability question, we're just going to have to get some clarification on. And once again, that's one of the reasons why another hall has chosen to only rent to one rental right now, as opposed to having multiple private rentals in during a really short time frame.
Well, that's kind of where we've just been sort of, you know, telling people that we could hold a date for you at this point, but we haven't really opened up yet. Because I think we need to make sure that we've got everything in place before we even start to make solid rentals, for sure.
Will there be like a township repercussion? Like, let's say we decide like we're not going to open at the time being. Is that going to be like something where the township will be like, oh, look, Brentwood's not doing any rentals, like, you know, we don't need to continue on with that board? Or is that just like understood that like we're just not comfortable yet and like we can reassess in a few months?
Yeah, your decision as a board, whether you choose to open, not open, or find some sort of middle ground, will have no bearing in the level of support that we'll provide. So at any time when you're willing and ready to open, I'll be here to provide you the resources and the toolkit and the one-on-one support to make sure that happens successfully.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Township is going to stand behind us either way. Most of the halls are waiting another month or two before they want to open up. There's too many F's yet. So everybody's sort of staying closed until we know what's going on. But the township's behind us 100%, whichever way we go.
Okay, all right, that's good to know.
Yeah, I think my main concern would just be getting this cleaning situation figured out. Like, obviously, I don't want any of the board members to be going if no one's comfortable to be going, or the fact with the liability. So I think my recommendation would be that we hold off until we can, one, find the cleaner, or two, maybe get clarification when Sarah gets a chance to talk to Pam, and then have another meeting to reassess at that point.
I agree.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've had inquiries. We've had a couple for, you know, coming up in the close future. I've, you know, just told them we're not ready to open. We're still working on that, and they seem okay. And then we have some ones that are inquiring for 2021. So I've been telling them that we'll put their name on that date, and at this point, you know, that would be theirs. But we're not making anything solid yet. But, you know, as it gets closer, then yes, then we, you know, get back in contact and solidify their rentals if we feel better about that come, you know, January 2021 type thing. So
yeah, I think I'm most comfortable with that as well.
Yep.
Yeah, we should hold off until the kids go to school and see what's happening. I'd suggest we don't do anything until November, at least.
yeah, I was going to say October, November, meet again, and in the meantime we can you know, sort of put our thinking caps on and come up with what an agreement would look like. The wording we would want to use, that kind of stuff. You know, and
does
like
anyone have any interest in starting the ball on making some procedures up? Maybe someone who has like some cleaning experience, or just has the time to do it. Otherwise, we can ask again in a month if anyone's interested in working on it.
You mean procedures for people renting, Kristen, or procedures that we want done by a contract?
I think procedures by a contract would be our first step. That, or a volunteer going in to clean. Like, I think that would be the number one, and then we could snowball from there on when we're ready for rentals.
Okay, I know we had to do an agreement with our cleaners at work. I could pick Julie's brain and just see, like, what did that agreement look like? Like, or, you know, not like the procedures. Now, mind you, it's an office. It's not like where there's going to be food. Well, we still have kitchens, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
we
sounds
could-
good. Maybe we get a start on how to word it properly.
Yeah.
That's right. That'll
Um,
give you the basic background information to start off.
Yeah. And then we could add to it, you know, considering the kitchen and stuff, because, you know, our kitchen at work doesn't get used that much. But, okay, so yeah, I agree. Let's work on, let's, you know, let's see what happens when kids go back to school. Is a second wave going to come? You know, all that before we start jumping right in.
Mhm.
And the other thing too, if anybody is inquiring, and because where we are at now, because of square footage, Amanda, is there a formula that says, you know, 900 square feet could accommodate, you know, the fire hall has a formula for the square footage.
Yeah.
For, is there a formula for COVID
So
for square footage and how many?
yeah, so there are some other organizations that are kind of working on that to have a better idea of what the formula would look like. But because right now the limit is set at 50, providing there is physical distancing, what you really need to do is go into your hall floor space and count out how a typical table setup would look.
Okay.
Okay, and then you'd be able to see. Just keep in mind that you can have a table that can accommodate up to 10 people, providing they're all within the same social circle right now. So that is one
Right.
advantage that you would have. And the 50 max people do not include volunteers and staff. So let's say you had the renter was bringing in a private catering company. Those 4 catering staff members do not count towards the up to 50 limit.
Okay.
Do you know what does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Because I think we
Doesn't.
need to know what our numbers are, because we may only be able to accommodate 30 people.
Right.
Like I know it's 72. So if it's only going to accommodate 30 people and we say, oh, sure, you can have it, but you're only allowed 30 people in there, well, people aren't even going to rent.
Mm-hmm.
Not for the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other group that you might want to think about would be somebody like the Brentwood Yoga. So you would have to provide 6-foot spacing between each yoga participant. So that's not table
Right.
chairs. That would be, and I wouldn't suggest using the stickers that I'm going to be providing, but you might need to put some sort of dot or electrical tape that spaces out every 6 feet into a grid. That's the way that we're starting to look at some of the community centers, is just what does a 6-foot grid look like in our rectangular floor space.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to have a site meeting and start doing some calculations on the floor area to see whether it's going to be feasible or not, or how many we can accommodate. But we need a site
So
meeting.
that's, yeah. So when we decide that, hey, we're going to go forward and maybe start opening, that's definitely something that we have to look at. Because if we can only have 30 people, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people are going to go, well, no, I need at least 50. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The
And then
other,
we don't even have to worry.
yeah, the other thing that I'd like to leave with you guys to look at is we have funds available to put up like a plexiglass barrier in your serving area. So in your kitchen you have the open window. So
Yeah.
to serve food, you need to have an impermeable barrier, so plexiglass or some other clear barrier between the person preparing the food and serving it versus the patron on the other side. So we have funds available if that's something that you need us to construct to block off that serving area.
Okay.
Is that only if we're doing takeout or buffet?
That would be if you're doing any serving of food out of the kitchen window.
And I don't think you can.
Buffets are not allowed.
Anymore.
Right. Okay. Okay, so that
How
seems.
does that affect family style service? Like what we did at the last dinner. if buffets aren't allowed, I mean, putting giant plates full of food down on a table is no different than standing up and serving with everybody else.
So
No, you'd
once
have to do-
again, buffets are not allowed. That's my answer.
If you were to do something like that, you'd have to say, well, as long as your table of 10 are in a bubble, like, so I think that would be too complicated to do too.
But we don't have to worry about that, so we don't have to waste our time
Yeah.
with that one because
We don't-
obviously we'll make
like-
food for some time.
Because there's two pieces to it. There's the piece of a rental. They're renting the room, have at it. Because you obviously, it's people you feel comfortable with because it's a
Right.
private rental. Where I don't see us doing any food fundraising for like a while
Yeah,
until we
a while.
know we're all going to be,
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yep.
is that something we still need? That's why I'm asking, is it something we still should have that plexiglass for when a catering company comes in and they're preparing the food in the kitchen that will, let's say, plate service will be served to the guests out? Is the plexiglass needed for that?
Well, we
Yeah.
can, like when we come back to discussing rentals, we can also talk about the fact that maybe we would just not do rentals that have food services. I mean, we don't have a huge kitchen for food services, so maybe it's something where we just do rentals and we just say like, hey, kitchen's like not accessible at this time, like, so you either have to bring cold food or whatnot, or just no food at all. I think hopefully we would be able to make that call on that.
That's it.
Yeah.
To me, that's now we're going to have people sneaking food in a cooler that we can't control. And
But we can't, so that's why we make a rental agreement that says, these are the guidelines and you have to agree that you are responsible for following those guidelines.
Yeah.
So if there has to be plexiglass, they need to bring a plexiglass and they need to put it up. Like, you know what I mean? It's not something that we should.
But if there's funds available, and I don't believe COVID is going away. Okay,
No.
we are going to see our normal be new. We will eventually be able to come back to our community hall. But at this point, do we take the funding, get the plexiglass up, and then if anything further down the road, we're protected from the whatever other flu is going around, or, you know?
Makes sense.
Amanda, is there a time limit on this funding, or do we have some time to decide?
Honestly, we are really supportive. So like our budget expires at the end of December 31st, 2020. But if there are outstanding requests, we would just carry that forward. But I would look to your hall to hopefully make some decisions before the end of the year.
Right.
Yeah, we should be making a motion to get the plexiglass put in. But for hall rentals, the only ones would be the yoga up until about Christmas time, or maybe Christmas dinners. I wouldn't.
Yeah, like at this,
anybody else.
yoga hasn't, we haven't heard anything from yoga, so I'm assuming that they're not even feeling comfortable enough to try to run it. So yeah, it might be maybe Christmas dinners. Sometime we'd get, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of why I brought up, like, how many are even going to be able to be accommodated? Yeah.
Will it be a removable barrier? Like how much, I guess my question is like, when it's installed, is it going to do a lot of damage to like the wall or anything like that? Or will it be like at some point we'll be able to take it down and it'll be tidy looking?
You know, actually, Kristen, I'm not too sure. I don't want to make any false promises, but we would be working with a supplier to have something installed properly. But I would work with you or whoever your hall board member is to make sure that that happens. So again, that's really like a tailored one-on-one approach to make sure that it really fits the needs of the hall. So if you think that you want to have it removable, I would just work that into our specs and try to find a supplier that would be able to accommodate that.
Right.
Okay, then let's put it to a vote. How many are in favor? Let's take our time. Just say your name and if you're in favor of the plexiglass going up currently, or if you'd like to wait. And then that way we just have the decision made by everyone.
So we need a mover.
So anyone can
seconder.
start.
Sorry, before we vote on it, we need a mover and a seconder on that, please.
All right, I'll be a mover.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, so Aunt Laura, you want to start? Are you for or want to wait? Which would you prefer?
I think let's get it moving.
Okay.
Yes.
Love it. Danielle? Danielle?
Danielle?
How about-
She's
I'm
sleeping.
for it. I'm here. It was having a meltdown.
Okay. Carol?
I mean, I think it's, we could say that, yes, we're for having a request for one. I think we need to think about what it's going to look like and all that stuff, but yeah.
Erica, are you
Yeah, I
on
think
the
we
line?
have that control, don't we?
Yeah,
Sure.
just so we can work with her.
Erica is not here. She was late at work tonight. So.
Oh, okay. Melanie, is she here?
Yep.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I want to have a movable one.
Removable? Okay.
Yep.
Johnny, any thoughts? Are you also in agreement that we should get moving on this?
Yes, we need it in there. This isn't going away anytime soon. It's going to stay there for a while.
Okay, so then if everyone's in agreement, let's work towards, do we have a liaison that can work with Amanda on the specs for what it is we're looking for? Obviously, we want removable at some point in the future. Hopefully, when this is over.
I can support with that, Kristen,
Perfect.
because I'm close.
Okay, awesome. So,
And we're
gonna do
And
that.
it might just be I mean, we want it pretty. We want it that.
Yeah, and it's not something that needs to be made right away because we are still not open yet. So,
Even the ones you have in the office are removable, aren't they, Amanda? Everything's just temporary, but it looks like they're permanent.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know enough about the ones that were put into the main office, but it would be probably a similar supplier that I would reach out to. Yes, at the end of the day, anything can be uninstalled that is installed. I think I would just look to the hall board to make sure that the size of the barrier and the functionality is really going to meet the needs of your hall and your volunteers.
right.
So happy to work
Okay.
with Lorianne on that, and we can just set up like a one-to-one time to go measure and
Yeah.
get some plans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Amanda, so my understanding from some of the previous emails and stuff that were going around, that some of this funding is coming from United Way.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So one of the places that I've been working contract at, they have some pretty neat stuff there. Obviously, it's seniors residents. Would it be possible, or how do we move forward, and whether the board even thinks this is important? But they have paper towel holders that are censored. They have soap dispensers that are censored, which I think that that's really valuable, that it removes the touch. It's less contact, which are high contact areas, but people don't touch it. Yeah,
I hear you.
so how would possible that is that something the township has looked at or could look at, that I would like to see it at the Brentwood Hall, but why couldn't we have it at all of our public establishments if there's United Way money? And again, COVID's not going away for a
Yeah.
very long time, so
So-
let's get into this. Yes, it's the hand sanitizer is going to be an automatic. Why can't we have soap dispensers and paper towel dispensers in the public areas also?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer for you, Lorianne. I know it's on our radar for some of the community centers like Stainer and Creemore. I guess because we've always given the autonomy to the hall boards for you to manage your own facilities. So it's sort of one of those, it's like your ability to decide if you wanted that or not would really be up to your hall and your kind of whatever is available in your bank accounts. But I can have a conversation with our general manager And if there's any sort of information, I can give that to Sarah to provide at your next board meeting.
Well,
Well-
also maybe if there's an opportunity for us to piggyback on, like, I'm sure if you guys are buying things in larger bulk, you probably get a better pricing than if we just bought like 2 automatic paper towel dispensers. Like, if there's an opportunity that we could join in with one of your purchases, like, we'll pay for it. It's just that maybe you guys can get a better price than what we could.
Price and sourcing it. Okay, let me take a look and ask.
Yeah.
And there's also like, how do we acquire some of that? If this is a decision we choose as a hall board, that we want that in our establishment, how do we acquire some of the United Way money to pay for that? Because we have no revenue right now. So, and we're moving with the times of where we live. So I don't see it as, well, you can choose what kind of dish soap you're going to use. Yeah, we can, but we're asking for more safety measures put in to protect us and our community. And I feel that that's where the United Way money is. And how do we acquire that?
For sure. Okay.
Well,
let me follow up on that one. I have a pretty good handle of the United Way funding because it was a grant application I applied for, but I'll find out if there's any wiggle room and flexibility for these types of purchases. So.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess the only other recommendation or suggestion that I have that I'll need at some point from the hall is a motion to either remain closed, work towards reopening, for you to revisit this at a date that your hall feels comfortable, or just receive the toolkit information as information only.
Thanks, Amanda.
I guess my
actually was
suggestion
gonna-
would say that we're working towards that.
Oops.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. I was going to mention that there was no motion on the floor as to where the direction was going with that. So certainly if we can create some direction with that, that would be great.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling like we'll work towards it. Obviously, it'll take us some time, but we're not completely shut down to the idea of reopening. I mean, the Brentwood Hall is pretty important. I know there's people that want to have celebrations of life and things like that at the facility. So I think whatever we can do to work towards it would be my recommendation for us.
I'd make a motion that we'd stay home until the end of October after our next council or our next hall board meeting.
Yeah, I'm thinking October as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, October.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we need a seconder on the motion.
Second it.
We good?
So working towards reopening, perhaps rediscuss at the September meeting,
October.
at the October meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to keep in our hats and not to be on the minutes, but just for an FYI, we haven't been contacted yet, but Region of Huronia usually holds their Christmas party in December, so I don't know
Yeah, we'll have to.
what that's going to look like, if that's still the plan, or what. That's why I thought if we know that we can only have 25 people, well, that's not going to accommodate them, or whatever.
So that's,
So
so in October, we could, start bringing some of that information to light and start going from there.
And if I can just add to this conversation that the guidelines are literally changing on a weekly basis. So the opportunity to increase the mass gatherings from 50 to some other number may happen by October, November for you to be able to have those conversations. So just keep that in mind, that it's like anything during COVID, things are changing rapidly, and we just need to respond to that. And when there are changes that I think will affect your hall board, I'll be the primary contact to communicate that out. But if you hear of things or you have questions, by all means, just reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to help.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on the agenda, just so we can keep moving? I can. Time's almost over.
I think that was the biggest topic that we really need, that we felt that we needed to discuss. Anything, anybody else?
Yeah, I have a request from the new neighbors to the hall that built the new fence between our property lines. They have a inflatable business. They make, I don't know what they do. They blow up big bouncy castles. And they they've reached out and asked if it would be all right if they need to take photos of their equipment, but their property isn't big enough, so they wanted to know if they could just blow one at a time up in the backyard to take product photos. So I told them that we had a board meeting tonight and that I would bring it to the table to discuss if that's something we're comfortable with. I don't know if there's a big issue with it. Like, obviously they would be running hydro from their own property to our property and blowing it up, taking their photos, and then taking it down.
That would be, actually, you say that quite confidently, but we do have an outdoor plug.
I was going to say we could go over and flick the breaker.
Just make sure.
But then the other fact is they are new neighbors.
Yeah.
And they might be a good eye. I don't know.
And like Kristen said, they put the fence up. They fixed up that fence line and tidied it up, and so.
And I keep my eye on, they have a lot of vehicles.
Right.
I keep my eye that the Brentwood Hall is not becoming a parking lot, and I have never ever seen any of their vehicles parked in there. So, you know.
Yeah.
I would say fine, just as long as you're not going to anchor them.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
We're good with that. I'll let them know that obviously.
Blow them up and take them down. So it's just going to be a temporary thing. There shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, temporary for cleaning by law, they still have to anchor them because there's such a large in the liability, and they have to have, I think it's a minimum 2 to 3 points of anchor as soon as it's over 8 feet tall. I mean, that's what we had to do when I worked at Party Time Rentals. And when they cleaned all their structures on their own property, they anchored them all because of their insurance and liability.
Oh, okay.
Make sure I put that in the email then. So you're saying that they can't, if they do, like, are the anchors going to leave damage? Is that the concern here?
I just mean more or less for the septic bed.
Okay, so I'll just say.
Yeah. So probably direct them to the back area, like where we put our VIP tent area.
Yeah.
Because I think that's well enough away to surprise problems.
Good. Okay, I will write that in the email then. Okay, so that they know. Anyone, anything else you want to cover?
No, I'm good.
Sorry, the only thing I see here that we haven't discussed is the social media discussions.
Oh.
The what?
Oh, what is that?
So where or what?
Item 8.4 under new business, social media discussions.
Oh.
I feel like that was me. Hold on.
What is the matter with you?
Is it when people?
I have what they call mom brain.
It's mom brain.
Mom brain. Let me
Kristen, is it back to when some stuff was being said about the Brentwood Hall? There was a light left on, and then our local individuals would just state stuff down that, you know.
That was probably what it was. I mean, that sounds like it. I don't remember what it was that I wanted to cover, though. Well, I mean, it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe I have amnesia. I don't know. Well, let me think about it. I'll bring it back in October if it's that important. Cover it again. I'll write it down next time when I think about it.
Yes, when you have mom brain, right?
I'll try and cover it.
And just to double check, just because the agenda says September 29th at 6 p.m. being the next meeting, you want to push that right off till October, is that correct?
Yeah, I think Kayla sometimes she'll just pick when it falls in line. So yeah, we'll just push it back.
Okay.
Oh, it's raining like crazy. Sorry. So I'm running around, closing my window.
I don't think it's raining here.
Oh, it's
It is
pouring.
definitely raining at the moment. Okay, so anyways, it's bedtime. So everyone good? Anything else?
Yeah.
Just a motion
I'm
to
good.
adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
How much time does Lorianne need?
She said her phone died. Bear with me. I'm trying to talk to her.
Go ahead. All right, tell her meeting adjourned.
Hang on one
Yeah,
second.
meeting adjourned. What? Hurry up. I've got
By
a
the way,
baby.
everybody,
Well,
Erica said-
she said 1 second.
Meeting adjourned. It's all good.
okay.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sarah. Thanks, Tina.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye.